time, welcome in. Come into our house of hope and love, of peace and justice, of wholeness and healing. Welcome all who have come seeking a new path, to those that find this community as a home, to new friends, old friends, and friends you've just not met yet. The seekers of justice, spirituality, and community, the Throop Unitarian Universalist Church, where we love the world from the heart of Pasadena. There are some things in order of service. If you haven't gotten one, there are some back there. You can also use the QR code, just so you know. And if you are new, either here or online, you can sign in our guest book online. Again, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Each one of us is a light unto the world. The flame from our chalice symbolizes that light. Our time in worship here is intimately connected with our daily lives. As a symbol of that connection, we light a chalice with the flame from our shared candles of hope and witness. Our chalice lighting today is written by Brian Healy. It's called, "In Times of Cold, We Seek the Warming Fire." And here we can all feel that right now, too. Lit candles held in a row of cupped hands. In times of darkness, we stumble towards the tiny flame. In times of cold, we seek the warming fire. In times of repression, we reach for the lamp of truth. In times of repression, in times of loss, we pray for the comforting light. In times of joy, we light the candle of celebration. Spirit of light, as we light this candle, help us find what we need today. We light a second candle in honor of the people and ancestors whose lands we now own. The land under and around Throop was once and is still the home of the Gabrielina Tonga Band of Mission Indians. May this knowledge and awareness lead us to seeking justice and equity for all. We light a third candle, symbolizing our watershed, the Arroyo Seco. May their waters continue to nourish life in our communities, and may we take a moment of silence, holding all of these in our hearts.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandfather's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
Babies. This time in the service is where we would normally welcome each other. But due to circumstances beyond our control, the resurgence of COVID, we're going to be asking everybody to simply turn to each other and smile and nod. And here, all the way from back. And for those of you online, we're saying hi to you as well. I know that we all know what we feel for each other in our hearts, and it's often very easily expressed through our eyes, even with masks. So thank you.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
Our pondering today is actually a reading from Technicon on cultivating joy. We cultivate joy because it helps us get the nourishment we need in order to get stronger and go further in our practice. The Buddha encourages us to relax our bodies, to embrace our pleasant feelings, and to create joy and happiness for our own nourishment. Cultivating joy means to strengthen our happiness and nourish ourselves. Deep in our consciousness, there are many wholesome, positive seeds. If we know how to touch them and water them, they will manifest themselves on the upper level of our consciousness, the mind consciousness. We have to practice looking deeply to recognize all of the wonderful seeds we have, the seeds of mindfulness, enlightening, understanding, joy, and loving kindness. We might think that we cannot love because we've not been able to touch the seed of love within us. Through our practice, and with the support of our brothers and sisters, we're able to touch those seeds of love as well. Forgiveness, compassion, and joy. Some people say, I don't know what joy is. I have absolutely no joy within me. That's because the person has not been touched, or be able to touch the seed of joy within themselves. The practice is to touch it and recognize it. The practice is to cultivate joy. We need to organize our daily lives so that the positive seeds are watered every day, and the negative seeds are not watered. We all have seeds of suspicion, despair, and anger. Seeds that are cultivated in one person, they're stronger. If in another person they're weaker. We do not want the people who live around us to water our negative seeds. Every time a negative seed is touched and watered, we suffer. But we can do better than simply not watering our negative seeds. We can water our positive seeds of happiness, loving kindness, forgiveness, and joy. We call this practice selective watering. We water the flowers, not the weeds, so that the flowers will bloom in every person. When we make the other person smile, we benefit as well. It does not take long to see the results of our practice. Providing sustenance for ourselves, for our joys, can also extend into giving. This church is our church. We support it through our gifts of time, our gifts of talent, and our gifts of treasure. There are, of course, many ways of giving financially this morning. There's text to give. There's also a donation box in the back of the sanctuary. And you can also give online. Thank you for supporting our lives together.
Purer than purest pure, whisper a whisper so big within our sense, forgiving the once of eager glory. No more a miracle may grow. Child fully serious, flower of holiness, a pilgrim from beyond the future, immediately new, like some newly remembered dream. Flaming a cooling bell touches most near until eternally with luminous the shadow of light.
As we give thanks for this offering, say with me the words in your order of service. For the ministries of this church and our community, we bless our offering with love and hope. And as members of the family of living beings on earth, we are guided by the Unitarian Universalist principle of respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. With hearts filled with love for it, eyes nurtured by its beauty, and minds ruminating on ways to protect its sacred and scarce resources, we promise to nurture the well-being of all life and the planet itself. Now, I don't know about all of you, but the holidays have left me just a tad stressed. Some of it's good stress. Some of it is stress that I would like to get rid of. And so I want to do something a little different. I want to invite us to do a group meditation today. Take a couple of minutes. I want to give you the opportunity to kind of get out of your mind for a little bit, get back in touch with the body, and rest. So if you're willing and able, I invite you to close your eyes or just pick something softening the gaze in front of you. Now, allow your next breath to bring you gently and slowly to the present moment, to the here and now. Exhale the warm air in your lungs and expel any tension and emotions you're holding. Now begin to notice your body as it's seated, feeling the full weight in your seat. Take 2 more deep breaths in and out. In and out. Now, notice your feet on the floor. Notice the sensation of your feet touching the floor. The weight, pressure, any vibrations, heat or cold. Now, notice your back against the bench. Gently correct your posture by slowly lifting your chin to the top of your head till it radiates up towards the sky. Now, bring your attention into your stomach area. If your stomach's tense or tight, let it soften while you take another breath. In and out. Now, relax your shoulders down. So many of us walk around with necks up to our ears. Feel your neck grow long. Notice your hands. Are they tight? Are they tense? See if you can allow them to soften, to flatten. Relax your forehead. Relax your eyes. Relax your jaw, your ears. Relax the muscles in the back of your neck. Notice again your breathing. Allow it to bring you into the present moment once again, where you're safe and relaxed. Take one more deep breath in and exhale. Be aware of your whole body as best you can, taking your breaths in and out. And then when you're ready, gently open your eyes. Thank you for taking that moment with me. I hope it helps.
Faith is a forest in which doubts play hide. Insight can clear the still small voice deep inside. Web of life, may this thread I weave, strength and commitment to all I believe. Vision be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say. Seeds of both meek and strong are scattered in air. Dignity shines undimmed by bigotry's glare. Web of life, may this thread I weave help me come witness to all I believe. Justice be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say. Fortune and famine ride the swift winds of chance. Sorrow and pleasure seem united in dance. Web of life, may this thread I weave mingle compassion to all I believe. Mercy be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say.
You're in luck today. I've got a really fun story for you. Over the last several weeks, we've celebrated various holidays, various faith traditions. As you use, many of us come from other faith traditions to Unitarian Universalism, and we still celebrate various holidays of our original faith traditions. Of course, there's one that sticks out in our mind because it happened yesterday, and we still have remnants of it in our creche. The birth of the baby called Jesus. So, I'm pretty sure we all know that story, particularly since we just talked about it in the last couple of days, but I'm going to give you just one quick synopsis to go through it one more time. So, the event of this birth was foretold by angels, Gabriel appearing to Mary, and telling her that she was to conceive a child called Jesus. Mary was frankly shocked by the news, as she was a virgin and was going to give birth to a child having been a virgin. Jesus was born in a manger in Bethlehem, and there was no room in the local inn. His birth was filled with radiance, shining stars, angels, lots of animals. Wise men gathered around for the events, and people bringing gifts from afar. And while we've just celebrated this story, you might be surprised to discover that his is not the only miraculous birth story that have a lot of the same wonderful elements. To this end, I'm going to share with you the birth story of two other children that were both great spiritual leaders, great figures in history, that of the Buddha and Confucius. Both took place nearly 6 centuries before that of the birth of Christ. Now, as all good stories go, facts may have become slightly blurred over time, and it allows the stories to take a life of their own, to expand and capture a little bit of the grandeur of the subject, and frankly, to reflect the way things were in the time in which they lived. The stories could be considered allegories, interpretations of real-world issues, and wrapped up in a story that sounds a little bit unreal. So, stay where you are, get comfortable. It's going to take a minute or two. But I want to share again the stories of Buddha and Confucius, tales even older than the story of Jesus. So to start, the Buddha, whose given name was Siddhartha, which means he who achieves his goal, was born in what is modern-day Nepal. His parents ruled the kingdom near the Himalayan mountains, and they all lived in an opulent palace. The kingdom celebrated festivals of the people, and the kingdom, villagers, and everyone in attendance would come, they'd sing, they'd dance. During one particular midsummer festival, Queen Maya had become tired, and she lay down just to take a rest. She fell asleep and began to dream. In her dream, she was carried by 4 angels high onto the top of a mountain and into a beautiful palace gleaming like gold. There she saw an elephant carrying a large lotus flower in its trunk, which the elephant gave to her. In the morning, the queen told the king about her dream. The king summoned 64 of his Brahma, or counselors, to immediately come and interpret the dream. The lead counselor explained that the dream was good, and it meant that Queen Maya would soon give birth to a son. The son would have 2 possible paths. If he were to stay within the walls of the palace, he would one day become a great king, a great ruler. If he left the palace, he would become a Buddha, or a teacher. Now, when his birth was close, his mother, Queen Maya, told the king she wished to travel to her childhood home to give birth. The king agreed, and thus the queen began to travel. Her servants were carrying her in a chair. However, when they were only halfway to the city, she wanted to stop in this beautiful park that was filled with birds and fragrant trees. There, when she touched a blossom, her baby was born. It's said that when the child was born, 4 angels appeared holding in their hands the 4 corners of a golden net. And into this net, the baby was laid as if in a cradle. It was then that the baby stood up, took 7 steps, looking north, south, east, and west, then lay down and fell asleep. Those of you that know a little bit about Buddhism, you might be aware that Buddha did not become the famous king, but instead spent the rest of his life learning and teaching about how to end suffering. And at about the same time in history, a very different part of the world, a man named Kung the Tall, for he was very tall, in fact, taller than anybody else in his village, was to become the father of the child Confucius. Kung had been a soldier for most of his life and had been honored for his bravery, his prowess in battle, but now he was 70 years old and, having lived through those battles, had retired from his profession. And he looked after his family of 9 daughters. Kung, however, was not happy. Not only had his wife died, but she died before giving him a son to carry on his legacy. With this desire in mind, he asked the daughter of a noble house to be his new wife, in the hopes, of course, of conceiving a male heir to his throne. And he was granted a marriage to Ching Se. His wife, knowing Kung's desire for a boy, prayed daily for this desire to come true. In an effort to appeal directly to God, she climbed to the top of a sacred mountain and prayed fervently for a son. That night, she too had a dream. A spirit came to her and said, quote, "You shall have a son who will be a great sage and prophet, and you must bring him forth in the hollow of a mulberry tree." Soon after, Chang Se became pregnant. One evening, while relaxing in her garden, she saw 5 men coming towards her, leading a strange but somewhat familiar-looking animal. These men were the essences of the 5 planets: Jupiter, Mars, Saturn, Venus, and Mercury. And they led a unicorn. Now, Chinese unicorns apparently look like a cow with like one big horn and are covered in scales like a dragon, just to give you the mental image. So, testing to see if this one was real, Ching Se tossed a scarf over the horn, where it landed on the horn and proved it was real. The unicorn had in its mouth a piece of jade inscribed with the following words: "The son of the essence of water shall succeed to the withering Chow and be a throneless king." In essence, that meant that her son too, though would be wise and a leader of men, would not be a ruler of men. Well, as you can imagine, Ching Se was a little bit shaken by the encounter, and when it was time for her to give birth, she reminded her husband that the birth was to take place in the hollow of a mulberry tree. Kung, credit to him, had remembered that there was a cave named Hollow of Mulberry and told his wife. She stated her need, "Let's go there." Having already heard the prophecy, Kung said, "Yep, let's make the arrangements." Once settled in the hollow, childbirth came on quickly. And while giving birth, 2 great dragons appeared to the right and left of the cave, and 2 spirit ladies proceeded to pour out fragrant odors into the air. And the 5 immortal men of the 5 planets came to celebrate the birth of the child Confucius. While holding the newborn, they saw strange writing on the baby's chest. It was 5 Chinese characters that stated and formed the words to an old song. It said, quote, "'Tis this night a child was born. He shall be a great king who shall make good laws and shall help people do right." As with the Buddha, this child grew up to be a very wise man, with many followers of his words and deeds. Similarities? Interestingly, we can see the three origin stories, the Buddha, Confucius, and Jesus, have striking similarities in the places, the events, even in the attendance. Each birth was attended by wise beings that were summoned to these places to stand witness to the miracles that were going to occur. For note, dragons are considered very wise beings as well. We also see a reference to the ethereal, to the attendance of angels at all of the births. So what does this tell us? What does it mean? I think, in part, the answer to that is very individual. It's in your own hearts and minds and souls. Do these elements that are in common mean that the events are the same? They're equal? They're valid? They're all true? Maybe one stands out to you. Maybe one you didn't think would. Maybe they all seemed a little too far-fetched to be completely real. That is why, as Unitarian Universalists, we support all spiritual paths and recognize people's search for truth and meaning in their own spiritual lives. I invite us to keep this in mind, not just over the holidays, but all year round. Amen. Namaste. And blessings.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole.
Although our chalice is now extinguished, we carry its light with us into these dark nights. May we recognize the flames within each other and allow them to illuminate our shared paths together. Go now in peace and love and light.
Let all the beauty we have known illuminate our hearts and minds. Rejoice in